Holy crap. It's the end of season 1 of the Autopian Podcast, and I've been delighted the entire time. And I'm so thankful that all of you have taken your time to sit and listen to us yammer about cars over and over again. And we have had some great podcasts. We had our Pebble Beach podcast. We had our live LA show podcast and the auto show. We had Magnus Walker. We had the Madman Leo from Darts. We had Bruce Meyer. We had legends. We had our own Mercedes. We had Kevin Williams. We had so many great people on the podcast, and you got to hear them all talking about incredible car stuff, mundane car stuff, all the stuff that you desperately need to hear. And look, I want to say on behalf of Beau and David and me, just thank you again for joining us and giving us a chance. I know we're a new podcast. We're a whole new site. The Autopian's brand new, and you guys came out and helped us out and listened, and we really absolutely appreciate that. So we're really excited. Of course, we got a season 2 coming up, and we're going to have some great stuff on season 2, including the next one that's about to come up now, part 2 of our conversation with the amazing Curtis Brubaker. And he actually talks about how he kind of invented the Cybertruck before Elon Musk invented the Cybertruck in a wank magazine. So it is an absolutely fascinating thing you have to see. Again, thank you so much for everything you've done. We will see you in season 2. Happy holidays, happy new year, and, have fun driving.
We've been teasing something, and that is the Cybertruck. And Curtis, the reason I was so excited to talk more other than the box is because when we were together doing the show, I was so fascinated with our conversations and all the things that you've been involved in and done, and just you've got a really fascinating history in life, and I was anxious to get to hearing more and more about that. So the first one that really knocked me off my socks was the Cybertruck and some of this inspiration. So we have a picture of the Cybertruck up now, but how do we want to kick this off, Torch? Because
I think we want to mention first that this is something that was first seen in 1978 in a Penthouse magazine of all places.
Yes, very important. And
where's that article you sent me, Torch?
For our younger listeners, Penthouse was a magazine with naked women in it, similar to Playboy, except maybe a little bit more graphic. So anyway. It's fun that this first appeared in it, but Curtis? What are we going to see here? Where is it? Where's it coming up?
But I'm gonna give it to David again right here.
All right,
here, David. That picture right there. It's in Slack. Can you?
All right, I'm waiting for it.
There it is.
Perfect. There it is.
So up top, just so everybody knows, we're looking at an image of 2 vehicles. On the bottom is the Cybertruck, the picture that was shown with the ramp down and that little the ATV thing in the back, and then above it is a vehicle that is shockingly like the Cybertruck in design. However, it predates it by pushing 30 years, from 1970, 78, 79. Curtis, can you please tell us about this illustration? Oh, 40 years, yeah.
Yeah, as Penthouse called me up and said we want to do an article on future cars, and would you be interested in doing something for us? And I said, sure. And they gave no requirements. If you look at Bill Mitchell, who was my boss for a few minutes, and Dick Teague, I forget who. Giugiaro was in there.
Wow!
They picked about 5 or 6 designers and asked us to just do what we saw as a future car. And
you nailed it.
I nailed Elon's effort.
You definitely.
I think they might have nailed yours, if because this obviously, like you said, 40 years prior. How did you come up with this inspiration?
Well, that's what I get paid the big bucks for. It comes out of my head,
to see 40 years of the future. I love it. But it's so basically.
But see now, this is way back. Even Elon with his truck he he hasn't given anywhere near enough thought. None of the truck designers have given anywhere near enough thought to what a truck does.
Yeah.
Even if
Yes.
it's used most of the time for going out to dinner or watching concerts out of the bed. There are people that need trucks to actually do stuff and load stuff. And I've got a package of stuff. When you see the stuff people invent to get their, 3 dirt bikes or 1 heavy duty Harley or a show vehicle or an ATV or into the back of a truck, you wouldn't believe what people do.
Beau, you probably are familiar with that, selling trucks. I mean, you probably see that stuff all the time.
I would, and that's where they've come up with very clever designs, like even the stick and the step that Ford did, and the multi-use tailgates, and all these things that are getting creative. And by the way, that's the biggest criticism we hear about the Cybertruck is that functionality. Yeah, it looks cool and all this stuff, but functionality, it has a lot of challenges to it.
I don't know how you load things in the back of this, because there was the one.
And that's one of the big ones.
Right, trying to load something from the sides of that bed would be tough. It's got sharp corners. One thing your Curtis's design doesn't have is really sharp corners in the tailgate, which is where you would be leaning back to load things. But it's remarkable how much it prefigures the Cybertruck design in that it's like this triangular wedge thing with these huge sails. It even has the ramp down just like this one does. It's
basically if you chopped off the very top of the Cybertruck where it comes into a point, the designs are almost exactly the same. From that crease line up from the Cybertruck is Brubaker's design almost to a T.
Yeah, it's
crazy. And so, Curtis, how did you feel when you saw the Cybertruck?
Well, there's a guy wrote an article after Jason's, and I responded to that and pretty much gave him my views on it. I thought it was a gag at first. It looked like
I think a lot of people did.
Yes,
like a sci-fi thing you bang together and you explode it and there's the real one. But so I thought it was a gag, and then obviously it was real. And I had told all my designers and everybody to watch the unveiling tonight, and I totally forgot about it myself. Like 1 o'clock in the morning. I go out there and I look at a rerun of the unveiling, and at first I thought it was nuts and not real put on, but then I realized that it was the actual design. And I had always been thinking, I think a truck is one of the most difficult, I should say, markets to get into, because you've got people that are used to trucks. They don't want to fool around. They want truck that's a truck. Let's not get styling, and you got to go through a bunch of gates that are very serious to have a good marketable truck. So Elon is pushing he's risking, but I think in retrospect, as long as it's well done, it's going to take hold. And I right now, the vehicle looks fine to me. And I've known from a career designing that if you have something backed with performance or innovation that is very cool, people will accept almost anything that works well. Design is a very fluid thing. People are going to accept this because it looks special and because it's fairly pragmatic. And I don't think the looks is going to be a problem at all. In fact, I think look at Rivian. Here you got something that looks like a truck. Now, if they get this thing in production, get all their problems solved in a few years, they're going to have to start all over again and do something that is innovative and looks fresh on the road. And I don't know if they have the wherewithal to do that like the motor companies can.
Yeah, Curtis, I want to go back to a moment because you said something to me that really struck me. And this is about 3 years ago when we were doing the show and when the Cybertruck came out, because a lot of people were absolutely outraged by the design. I mean, this is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in the world, I heard people say. And it's, they thought it was a joke. And, if people buy this truck, they're crazy and all of this. And you said something, very astute and wise, and I don't want to misquote what you were saying, but you were, and so please, after I misquote you, then you can correct it for me. But what you were telling me is
assuming
that
I can remember.
Yeah, well, you were saying that this is a design that it's very bold, and it's like bold designs. It takes a while for our human brains to start understanding and accepting it. But once you do, then the beauty starts coming out in it. And I don't know, you were kind of saying that a little bit before we got here, before I got in the conversation, but that's really what I see now. Like, oddly, the longer the Cybertruck's out, the more I find myself really digging the design and liking it more and more and more. And now I actually think the design, while it might not be practical, but who cares, is really cool. And again, I enjoy it the longer time goes on, just like you told me I would.
Yeah, I agree. The big sweep of glass, and the tight fit of the windshield and the frunk area, and it's dramatic.
And the triangulation of it all.
On the other hand, if the truck runs like shit and it's not a good piece of engineering, it's not going to take hold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You'd be amazed at what you know as well in the race car fields. If there's some innovation that outperforms the others, they're all going to adapt it, no matter how it looks. And when things work well, people adapt them, and the appearance is not all that important. Mm-hmm. And appearance can be refined and picked up, and people get used to it. Yeah. And I think like the Rivian, spending that kind of money on all new vehicle, they've got some clever innovation, nice little tidy pickup truck with clever.
They're doing good packaging things. They have that big tunnel, and I mean, they're using their space pretty well.
Yeah, innovative tailgate, but it's going to disappear into the crowd, And most people are not like us. They couldn't, when we do clinics, when you remove the logos on a car, you paint them all, say silver, so they all look the same. People can't tell a Mercedes from a whatever. They rely on the logos to know whether it's high end or what. And that's we know all that stuff because we know every detail. But most people can't see that stuff.
Yeah.
And so you really have to understand that to get the right responses out of them. And they can go any of a number of ways, but performance is something everybody, demands, whether they're, loud about it up front. But
yeah,
it's still got to do what it's designed to do.
It's a lot of forgiving,
But aesthetically, it's coming around.
Porch, I think you wrote an article that actually sort of claims the opposite of that.
To some degree. Well, there was that meme going around of all the SUVs. My point was cars have always generally looked alike for their given eras. Like, cars of the 40s, the memes showing like all SUVs look alike. Sure, to some degree, but at the same time, you pick out a lineup of cars from the 40s or the 50s, or the way the Corvair influenced like everything in the early to mid 60s. Like, it's not new. Like, there's still design going on, but a lot of it is in the details. And a lot of people normies out there who aren't like us, they do rely on badges a lot. They don't see all the things we do, but that's kind of always been the case.
Did you see the interview with Jay Leno and Elon, where they're driving around in his truck? And what's the word he used? It wasn't kick-ass. He wanted a come on, Jason, you can remember the word.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I think I know the general tone. He was going for something. Well, there's a certain aggression or like
was it badass?
Yeah, like he wants something to survive the apocalypse. And
right.
He figures a lot of people want that.
Which is a weird mentality. If we're honest, like the same reason they were advertising the Cybertruck as having bulletproof glass at first. Yeah. Like, it's kind of a hostile mentality.
Okay,
but a while ago, asking people if they really want bulletproof glass.
Yeah. But at the same time, look, it doesn't have to be an apocalypse. Like in '94, when we had the big earthquake, Man, I was thinking, boy, I'd be glad if I had a big truck right now, just in case. You know what I mean? Like, so there are things that can happen that are legitimate, not the end of the world, that you might want a big truck for.
You know what I wouldn't want in an apocalypse or in a earthquake is an electric car. Honestly, like
there's truth to that, but
that's true. It is. Yeah,
you want something that'll use kerosene and whatever you can find that'll burn.
Whale oil or whatever you got.
Yes. No, there's a lot of truth to that, and even when they have chargers on every corner, that's true. You can take down the supply real fast.
Yeah, steam cars then are the angle for that. You want to be able to just burn, dried.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think steam cars, they really are what you need in that scenario.
And by the way, they're working on engines that will run on just about anything you could pour in there. Kerosene, things like that. That's probably the apocalypse engine you want.
Wood gas. Remember the wood gas Citroen that we saw at Pebble Beach that ran on wood chips?
Yep.
Yeah, or the deuce and a half military trucks. Yeah. Those things will run off of freaking anything. You throw some vodka down the diesel gas.
That's what I mean. It's something that can run on anything that's that.
And you would think in less developed countries that would be almost a must-have, and
multi-fuel. Yeah,
I know.
But even here, if we could come up with something that's plentiful and cheap, you got a winner.
Well, they're working on that. Yeah, going back and innovation again. When we were talking a few years ago, I was fascinated at many of the things that you were involved in over the years. I don't want to steal the thunder, but can you talk about? I think when you were at Lear, I think you worked on some very interesting technologies of the day that people would find fascinating.
Yeah, it was quite an education, but I have to shock you guys first by saying I'm probably not that much of a car guy. I mean, I love cars and stuff, but I can't live them. I don't have gas in my veins like all the other guys I worked with at GM. You can't go to lunch without them talking about something else. They're kind of narrow, But I like everything. I'm curious about stuff, and honestly, it keeps you fresh when you don't do cars or the same kind of product all the time. You go to a theme park over here, a boat there, and you come back to cars feeling fresh, and you got some ideas you can plant over here.
Can you tell some of the other things that you worked on over the years that you enjoyed?
Yeah, actually, I had a. When I gave you a blank stare when we were shooting the episode, and I said I can't remember. There's a lot of truth to that. I looked at my damned client list.
Yeah.
What did we do for NBC? What did we do for Paramount? I'm trying to think of stuff. I've just totally forgotten this. Many years of stuff, and that's why I made a bunch of notes that I sent to Taylor, and he was showing me how we can bring that up on the screen so I can refresh my mind. I've even got it here on my phone, but I can't put it on.
I'm happy to help prompt some things that Taylor hinted at.
Yeah, there it is.
Here they are.
Too small for me to read.
Learjet helicopter.
Oh yeah, no, not too many people have seen that. Charlie Gates had just bought the company from Bill. Gates Rubber, Colorado, and he flew us back in his private jet, and he said he wanted me to redesign the jet, but he wanted to do a helicopter, and he had Mal Harned and a bunch of guys from Hughes, and they set up a little shop in Torrance. So our first job after setting up the Brubaker group in 65 or so was the Learjet helicopter. And the stock market was booming and everything. But before we got that done, the bottom dropped out of the stock market, and they decided not to go ahead. But it was a beautiful Jet Ranger was a very successful helicopter at the time. But the only twin engine rotary wing vehicles were military. And those were complicated. The transmissions were awfully. So the challenge was to meet what corporate officers, what corporate boards of directors want, and that's twin engines. but do it cheaply. And so the challenge was to do a twin turbine, so that you can overrun one in case you have an engine failure and get back on the ground safely.
Wait, can we go back to that list for a second? Because I wanted to read the next line, because the next line was so cool.
Is this the Disney?
Well, it goes, okay, I'll read it. GM Tech / touchscreen navigation, pull down menus, user-friendly displays. Now, in and of itself, that doesn't sound fantastic, but it's the year in front of it. 1964. 1964, how could that be? This jet helicopter is cool too, by the way, for those who can see it on the screen. That's unbelievably cool.
If you can't see it, picture like a Learjet style pointed nose and sleekness, but with helicopter blades on top and like rectangular, like little jet engine nacelles sticking out right below the blades. It's one of the sleekest helicopters I've ever seen, I think, actually.
It is. It looks like a jet helicopter.
Charlie Gates, who bought Learjet, wanted a family resemblance to the Learjet. That was intentional.
Definitely has that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On those stub wings that actually create some lift, there's a Garrett air research turbine in each one driving to the central transmission.
Wow.
So you had twin engine reliability, and it was quad gear.
So those generating lift, the little engine pods there?
Yeah, to the left and right of the pods, which is, if you look at it in side view, it's got an airfoil shape.
Wow.
It produces lift, but those are the jet engines in each side.
So cool.
And it was a fast ship. We modeled it out. That was our first job. A bunch of guys, and I remember we had to get that whole freaking mock-up up into an elevator.
How?
So this is your first job after some time in the Navy, and then a design degree at Art Center, and then you started this company.
Let me see. I got about halfway through Art Center, and when I started Art Center, there was this young kid in my class named John Lear. And he made a big point of telling me what a great pilot he was and so forth. So we became good friends. We'd go down and use the IBM Selectrics in his father's office down at Santa Monica Airport, type up our homework, and then we'd borrow a plane and fly. He knew the guys on there. He was quite a pilot. He was collecting ratings, John was, and he had crashed more planes than most people try to fly. And
it's a great guy I want to plane pool with.
Flew, and can give you some hair-raising stories. But he and I became. I helped him on his drawing, and he taught me how to fly, and that was a good relationship that we had. And I went out to Palm Springs. They have a home. He was Bill comes from the Olson and Johnson comedy team, and they've got a beautiful home out there that says the house that laughs built. And I met Bill by the pool. He was over in the corner sketching with a pad, and that attracts me. Like, I love mechanisms and stuff. I see what he's doing, and so we got acquainted. And he finally said, "You're coming with me to Wichita to design. I'm going to design this airplane." And I was thrilled. My dad was very upset. He wanted me to stay with Art Center and finish and graduate. He was an Annapolis graduate, and everything had to be in order and so forth.
Right.
Long story short, I went to Wichita, and I had a Navy background in aviation structures, and trained at Memphis and at their structural mechanics school, and you got to learn welding and all this stuff, and you repair planes. And I also love seaplanes, and I was by coincidence assigned a seaplane tender in the Navy. I had these thoughts. I had heard that in Italy there are Oscars and Maseratis laying around in vacant lots that you could pick up and restore. And that's what I asked the Navy. That's what I put in for, but I got a seaplane tender, which was fine. And, Bill was just a kind of wildcat guy. He didn't believe anybody. He says, I think we can do that. And I'm sure I picked up some of that. You challenge the engineers and make them show you why something won't work. Because something that wouldn't work back then could work today, new materials and stuff. So
Yeah.
that was an important lesson that I learned from Bill. Yes.
So that was the beginning days of Lear?
Yeah.
And you were there really starting with the very first Lear jets.
Yeah, go back
That's
to the
amazing.
beginning of those slides. I want to show you something. I'll show you how Bill started. I was looking for some pictures of the ship that I was on, the Navy, the seaplane tender.
Yeah.
And that I found a typical PR picture pulling one of the P5Ms up onto the deck with a crane. And then I found these Revell models that were even cooler. So I put a whole page of those on there for it's the USS Pine Island. This looks like the freighter that went to the fog-covered island hunting Kong, you know.
Look at that. Oh yeah, and you can see all the
that.
seaplanes like pulling up. Wow.
That's what it really looked like there. But those are the I was a little beyond the Revell model
that's
stage,
cool.
but I found all those online last night.
They were so much smaller, the actual seaplane tender, the actual picture one. Like,
Yeah, it was not a big craft. It had two cranes. You see one on the second deck and one that we could pick up and have two P5Ms on deck at the time to repair. There'd be beaching gear.
wow.
So our job was to run out, put the beaching gear on them, and then work on them. There's a big hangar deck that you could roll them part way in. But in Okinawa, where we went first, the reserve officer would come over and they'd run them onto the reefs and tear the bottoms out. And repairing that metal work have to be sealed in certain ways and stuff. So we did all that. But I much prefer the Revell models.
Yeah. So when you got to Lear, you'd already had the
anyway, go to the next slide, which is where I wanted to go. And this is how Bill started. He and anyone else could have done this. You couldn't have radios perform well in cars because you needed a spark arrestor and the spark plugs would cause static and just screwed up the radio. So Bill came up with circuitry that insulated the without having to have a spark arrestor. He came up with a circuitry that eliminated the static and made cars, made it possible to haul around cars and get good reception.
Wow.
With radios. And then he with a couple of other guys, that was 1930 right there.
Bill
The
Lear,
next slide I put in, he put together motor and Victrola, which was what the record players were called at the time, and founded Motorola.
That's fun. I feel like people don't realize that Motorola was founded by Lear, which is amazing.
Yeah, it was. And this is why he was trying to repeat all these successes. That's when he had this idea for an 8-track, which was a cassette that you carry. I mean, people tried record players and all sorts of stuff in cars, but they get stepped on with sand and ground into the self-destruct. So the cassette was something that could be sealed. You wouldn't have to ever rewind it because it was a
loop.
So next picture, I think, David.
And you worked on the 8-track project.
Yeah. Bill came to me and I worked with the electronics team and we created the first. Now this is even before that. This is Bill inventing what we call radar. And
wait, go to the next slides, I think.
There's Bill on the left holding the overcoat and the guys. I don't know, but this was his demo. And this is
radio. So by the way, the device allows lost plane to use radio stations as beacons. It's amazing. So that was the beginning of it.
Yes, yeah. And he got.
And I think we have an 8-track slide here.
But he'd been doing that kind of stuff most of his life, and I think that's what he wanted to get back in the entertainment business with the 8-track, because you couldn't carry your own personal.
There it is.
So we did that.
So you helped develop the 8-track player as well.
Yes, I'm afraid I did. Yeah.
That's okay.
That's amazing.
But at the time, look, that thing was. I think we had something like almost 18 years of before the Philips cassette came on.
Yeah, those were huge. Like 70s cars. My parents had like a Ford LTD growing up that had an 8-track thing. And they were durable as hell because you'd have the cartridge and it would just bang around on the floor and you'd shove it in and it was not a problem. Way better than
the first 8-track I bought was Led Zeppelin, just so you know. That's how old I am. I actually bought an 8-track before. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and I've got all kinds of stuff. I pulled 2 or 3 slides from a presentation. That's Bill's Oldsmobile station wagon.
Oh, it was called Lear Stereo. I never noticed that.
Huh? Wow, branded in the vehicle.
Yeah, wow. My job was to do the cassette, and I worked with the electronics guys, also the avionics guys. We're doing the Learjet, and then at night they would get all the stuff out on the table, and we build the stereo.
Amazing. What is that?
What's the tune toter?
Now I did this. The story here is, we had the big continuous loop 1/4-inch tape that had 8 tracks on it, and Philips came out with the little 2 reels, reel to reel, that you still, I guess you can still buy them today. Probably not, but you know what I'm talking about. The thing that we used in Walkmans forever.
Uh-huh.
Oh, just a standard cassette.
That came out after we were producing the big cassette. And I remember finding one up in the engineering department, walking down to Bill's office, and I said, "We got a problem. This is going to replace this 8-inch tape. Is going to replace our big cassette." And of course it did. And Bill made one of his usual remarks. He said, "I think the car is big enough to carry around our cassette just fine." And this was when I was leaving. I was going back to finish up Art Center. So I went home and I did this thing called a tune toter, they had basically singles, actually more than singles, were like little cartridges you'd snap into a flashlight sized unit, and you'd twist it and index the head up and through like 10 little cartridges. I thought that would be highly marketable and so forth. And this is really the forerunner of the Walkman, but like 17 years earlier.
And you have a little speaker, it looks like, in the diagram.
At the bottom and the top, yeah. And it was like a flashlight.
It does look like a little flashlight.
It looks like a flashlight on a handle. And I would say it's also the pre-runner to the iPod, too.
It took the continuous loop cassette and where you can stop it on tunes, because a little magnetic thing on the tape, but you never have to rewind it, and you always advance forward.
Wow.
So I thought this would be kind of cool, but
it's very cool.
You go through all these designs, and very small percentage of them actually get done because there's so many other factors.
But still, the thought process was so ahead of its time, Curtis. And I don't know if people are appreciating the fact that back then you really didn't take like music around with you like that. You either had like a cassette in a box or a record, which was big. So this was a way of taking your own music and plugging it into whatever you wanted to, which was unheard of until really the Walkman.
You're absolutely
and then the
right.
iPod.
Yeah, and then Walkman used the little Philips reel-to-reel flat cassette that we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
But it had to come out in large volumes for that to work. But you're right, we forget. All we had were record players, radio, and not a whole lot that was durable for getting out and around.
That's incredible.
And we're showing this clip from 2001. And this little thing they call
that's Kerr, however you pronounce his name.
Keir, whatever his name is. And then he had the news pad, which of course looks like a device we're all very familiar with today.
I was wondering how they did that effect. I figured they back projected it with a hole through the table.
Oh yeah. How did they do it? That's a great question.
When did this movie come out?
We did that on that control environment. We had front surface mirrors and folded we had 2 carousel projectors in our display. How did I not put that in there for you? Because I talk about it. I swear to God.
Well, we heard there was some Disney project where you were making some proto iPad-like device. That's what Taylor told us.
And so Torch, so this is Torch. Your point here was that You think this is probably fake, right? This isn't really
Yeah,
an
no,
course.
they use movie techniques, and he
Yeah.
was sitting on the table. That would be easy to do. They just have a projector, a film projector on a projecting it from, on the floor up through the bottom of the table. And then later, they cut and he picks it up and walks away with it.
Yeah, it actually
amazing.
It's very effective for showing a thin, basically what we've got now.
Yeah. You couldn't do that in 68.
The movies are, especially nowadays, are forerunners. I mean, they're very predictive of where we can go, and they set kind of magical goals with anybody, it's implanting that thing in your mind, and people just it's communication amongst people that plant those ideas, and many people, time in incidents, go into causing something to actually happen like that.
It's like you and
stuff like this is.
It's like you and the Cybertruck. It's like your Penthouse design in the Cybertruck.
Well, I was going to say, some people predict the future and some people create the future, and you're somebody who kind of did both. You predicted and then created ultimately what the future became. So, Curtis, I don't know if you had anything to comment on that, but is that still true today? Are you working on things now that you feel are coming up in our future that we should be paying attention to?
Absolutely.
Right.
Especially, I think Elon really missed the boat. There's so many things that should be done or could be done to make the pickup truck market really get excited. And yes, it doesn't take a lot of effort to see what's going on. I've got a very amusing slide presentation, PowerPoint that shows all the crazy stuff people have created to get shit into their truck.
Right.
Amazing, the engineering, the genius engineering. These guys are all clever, and they built stuff, for elevating a big Harley into the back of their truck or whatever. It's amazing. So that was like that was my epiphany in looking at the vans down in Newport Beach. Somebody's got to figure out a unique way for payload management. So,
all right. So we might have some Brubaker payload management coming down the line, huh?
Oh yeah. That's something Elon should have done. He's got his tonneau cover, which is fine, a metal tonneau cover, but that's just
Is there anything else we should be looking at from the Brubaker files or
you want to mention
stuff? Yes.
Also, we would like, if you ever want to come back and talk more next season, this season, whatever, this is the open invite, because I feel like there's
absolutely
we could talk forever.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel. There's the I've made Torch a promise that he would be the first to see the box, because
awesome.
I call it the B2, but Brubaker box 2, and
very excited.
It is based on the Cybertruck platform, but just the drivetrain, battery package, everything above that probably depends on how it costs out, but it could be composite or a variety of things, but it's going to be shorter than the Cybertruck, shorter than all of the full size pickup trucks.
Great.
It will hold. It holds more people in greater comfort, and/or more cargo through a unique system than any of those trucks. And it should perform like a Porsche. If we use this four motors and stuff like that.
No, why a Cybertruck, out of curiosity? Platform.
Because it's, I want to come up with that word. I'm going to find that word that Elon uses, but it's tough. I like the way he did a stainless steel stuff, not so much in the body, but the tough running gear. And he's impresses me the way he knows his products and he's using the stainless steel to get rockets into orbit. I like the way it's put together. I'm not wed to it yet. Of course, Elon will never see this podcast.
No, I don't.
No, he won't.
I can, I don't think so. But just say, because I was going to ask, do you have a deal where you could get the chassis or something? Or
Well, yeah, and obviously that's big on my mind, right? No, we could certainly offer him an increased volume in the keeps parts in the batteries if he needs that. He would like it at some point because greater economies of scale. But motors, suspension elements, all of that stuff. If he can multiply the production on those, he gets better costs, and through economies of scale, I would think once he gets going and satisfies his own market, then he would welcome somebody who could properly use all the drivetrain and battery hardware and structure.
I'm just excited. I'm going to get to see the B2 first. That's all I'm hearing.
That's where it ends. He would do if we can work something out. There's a lot to be done. I've got to finish it first. It's going to be a real breakthrough in terms of truck. There's a confluence of passenger car and truck. You probably figured that out.
Yeah.
And the beds get smaller, and because less utility, and the more leather and features in the cabs, and no secret there. So I'm really looking at on this, and it's working beautifully so far. This is more of a confluence of car and truck, but it will do a truck better than trucks, and it will house people in greater comfort and performance than most everything else on the market. I didn't want it to look like a van necessarily, like the Brubaker box looks like a kind of miniature van, kind of cute, warm and fuzzy and all that. But when I thought about it and got into it, I want to try and, I think I've established, nobody's seen this. Nobody has seen this yet. It's the first time I've done a product totally on my own.
Wow.
We've gone this far and nobody's seen it.
I'm so curious.
Normally I'd be very worried because, you want to get people's opinions all along.
Right.
But the one thing I've got going in my favor is that it stems from the B1, and so you want to preserve that, capture the character of it, and move it along without fucking it up, right? So that's where we're at, but build in all the utility that the first one never had because it was started out life as a kit, and it's got engines and things in the wrong places, and you can't. And of course, we did one door for safety and cost. That's one door is fine for the kind of kit that we had in mind. But we need super doors on the B2 because it wants to be a full-size, functional, very pragmatic vehicle. It performs better than all the existing stuff on the market.
Curtis, this has been so fun catching up with you again and sharing these stories with our listeners, and just thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're one of those heroes that unsung heroes that really deserve a lot more credit for what you've done, throughout all these years. So
You're
thank you.
You're kind to say that, Beau. I enjoyed the part where you were hunting for me on the phone.
I remember that was great.
No, this was a big deal, and this is like you've been a design hero of mine for like decades. So I'm super excited about every bit of this.
Well, that's why you're director of marketing, and
that's why I'm
it's
sales, marketing, and engineering, right in one street right here.
Yeah, no, I want to. Maybe we can present
and design.
Elon is so informal. I mean, he tells the truth. He's refreshing, and if there's a reason that he would do it, he'd just look at it. But I think it makes a lot of sense. We're not wed to his technology, but he's proven to me that he can do good stuff and crank it out there. I'm going to come up with that word. Not kick ass, but it's like that.
I think it was ass kicker.
His quote here is
I know I'll have to replay that window interview. But he said,
you got his quote there? Is that what you said?
Pardon?
David, I think that is a quote.
I have a quote from Car Advice, and Elon says, "We're really fundamentally making this truck as a North American ass kicker. Basically, the truck is going to kick the most amount of ass possible."
Yeah,
the goal is
it's like that. That's the word that comes away. He's got another word that's, I know we've all heard it, but and he says to Lena, "Well, you want a car that's so and so," and he uses the word, but I can't think of it right now.
That's all right.
We'll
probably see it in the comments once this.
It's enough credit.
Right.
You're the star here today, Curtis.
Yeah.
That's the important.
Yeah, it's about Curtis today.
That's right. Exactly. Thank you very much for joining us, Curtis.
No, it was a pleasure. There's a lot more to tell, and I wanted to
have you back
at the right time and under the right circumstances. Let's do it.
Well, if you'll be back, we'd love to have you back. So
absolutely, I believe there's tons more.
Let's introduce the B2 on your program.
Yes,
absolutely.
We're talking about
need a little and let's do it.
All right, buddy. Thanks again for joining us for the Autopian Podcast.
Yeah, I enjoyed
David,
it.
what else are we going to say?
Well, we're just gonna again say thank you to Curtis and subscribe. And comment and all that.
Come to the autopian.com. We got membership plans now you can check
big
out.
Membership plans. Great stuff. Thank you for all those that are members already. Big members.
Absolutely. We really appreciate it.
I enjoyed the Bruce Meyer interview. I know Bruce well, and he's a good guy. I'm not like his kind of car guy.
Well, he's the car guy's car guy.
He's no one's like him.
A wonderful guy.
Exactly.
He's a collector. Like you can equate that, I guess, with art. He's not the painter, but I'm the painter and he's the collector.
That's right. Well, awesome. Well, once again,
okay, guys.
One and only Curtis Brubaker. Thank you all. Thank you so much
again, everybody.
We'll do it again.
Thank you all for listening to the Autopian Podcast. Please subscribe. And what else do they do? I don't know what they're supposed to do.
Subscribe, push the button.
That's the other thing.
On your VCR, all that
click
stuff.
a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Holy crap. It's the end of season 1 of the Autopian Podcast, and I've been delighted the entire time. And I'm so thankful that all of you have taken your time to sit and listen to us yammer about cars over and over again. And we have had some great podcasts. We had our Pebble Beach podcast. We had our live LA show podcast and the auto show. We had Magnus Walker. We had the madman Leo from Darts. We had Bruce Meyer. We had legends. We had our own Mercedes. We had Kevin Williams. We had so many great people on the podcast, and you got to hear them all talking about incredible car stuff, mundane car stuff, all the stuff that you desperately need to hear. And look, I want to say on behalf of Beau and David and me, just thank you again for joining us and giving us a chance. I know we're a new podcast. We're a whole new site. The Autopian's brand new, and you guys came out and helped us out and listened, and we really absolutely appreciate that. So we're really excited. Of course, we got a season 2 coming up, and we're going to have some great stuff on season 2. Again, thank you so much for everything you've done. We will see you in season 2. Happy holidays, happy new year, and have fun driving.